The theme of our conference this year is disruption and innovation in cancer care, but more importantly, we're using a line that says patients take center stage. So we're very
Le
fortunate
thème de
to
notre
have
conférence
two
cette année,
patients with
c'est la
us
perturbation et
to share
l'innovation
their
dans les
personal
soins pour le
experiences
cancer,
with
mais de
you.
façon plus
And
importante,
one
on
of those
utilise...
patients is Jay Abramovitch. And I'd like to introduce you to Jay, who will share a few comments with you in two of our breaks today. Jay is a husband to his wife, Leslie, and a father to his 2-year-old daughter, Kira, who incredibly, I have to say, was adopted 2 weeks post Jay's chemo. He spent his life as a helper, holding a variety of positions in social services, and most recently as an emergency services as a fire captain. Jay also works as an equine-assisted learning personal development coach, focusing on individuals working through trauma and PTSD. At the age of 36, his life was turned upside down when he received the devastating news of a stage 3 colon cancer diagnosis. This life-altering experience thrusted him to the world of advocacy and peer support. His areas of passion and focus are young adults affected by cancer and men facing a cancer diagnosis and the unique challenges that each demographic faces. Quickly realizing there was a large gap in support for young adults and men facing cancer, he decided to volunteer with Young Adult Cancer Canada as a chat leader and advocate. In addition to Man Up Cancer as a Wolfpack leader and group administrator, Jay has also volunteered on several advisory boards and participated in events with Colorectal Cancer Canada. Jay is very fortunate and grateful to be just shy of 2 years NED and continues to passionately share his story and experiences of his journey, which he's going to do with you today. Welcome, Jay. Thank you for being here.
All right, so just want to say a big thank you, first and foremost, to Colorectal Cancer Canada for approaching me and asking me to speak at this conference, especially on the topic of clinical trials. And we'll kind of get to why in a little bit. But firstly, I kind of want to just go back a couple years and really just share my cancer journey and kind of how I got to where I am now. Going back a couple years to when I was 36, I was a healthy, active 36-year-old young adult. Life was great. Job was amazing. Wife's awesome. We both had a lot going on for us. We have a nice rural property just 40 minutes south of Ottawa. And generally speaking, life was good. I really had no complaints at that point. And then gradually, in about, I would say, June 2020, I slowly started having a little bit more abdominal discomfort, some cramps, some very minor pains here and there. But they totally come and go. There was nothing major. It was nothing even concerning. I really kind of just put a lot of it off to stress or whatnot. I've obviously worked in some pretty high stress jobs, so I really just attributed it to that. And then I guess if you fast forward a couple months later, bringing us to September, I started to notice some very minor blood in my stool. And, I wasn't overly concerned, but obviously when you start seeing blood in places it's not supposed to be, it kind of raises some red flags. So, and to be perfectly honest, I really didn't think anything of cancer. Being a 36-year-old young adult, pretty healthy, I had really no reason to even go there, especially given I'm not overweight, I don't smoke, I have no other health conditions, there's no family history of cancer, especially colon cancer in my family as far back as we know. So really, I kind of just let it go for a little bit, and then it just really wasn't going away. And I unfortunately played the Dr. Google game, right? And I started kind of Googling some symptoms, and every time, no matter how I Googled stuff or how I typed stuff, it would always come up, very first thing is colon cancer. So I still really didn't believe it. I really wasn't even on that path, to be honest, but I always had that lingering a little bit in the back of my mind. So I brought this up to my wife, and we talked about it a few times, and then we decided that it was probably best for me to go to my GP. I do have an anxiety disorder and some PTSD from work. So obviously, once that worry kicks in, it's not very healthy for me. So I made an appointment with my GP, and she's awesome. She's absolutely phenomenal. We have a great relationship. I did have a very, I guess, stereotypical type of experience as a young adult with one of her students that I saw first, unfortunately. He basically checked. I got a physical exam. He looked over my history. We went over symptoms, and he basically attributed it to stress. He said it could be IBS, inflammation, and a whole slew of other things. So I told him I was concerned about, cancer kept coming up on Google searches and stuff. So he eventually went and he got my actual GP who came in and we chatted. And she knew right off the bat that she was going to offer me something more because she just knows me very well and wasn't about to send me away with no plan in place. So she had actually offered to send me for a colonoscopy. The problem here was it was right in the middle of the pandemic. Okay, so if we think about 2020, the world was essentially on shutdown at that point. So my main concern was, how long is this going to take? Am I even going to get a colonoscopy? And what do I do here, right? So she had advised me to wait for the referral. That would probably be a couple months. And if things got worse, just go straight to the ER. So I kind of left with that. I really didn't think anything cancer-wise, to be honest with you. I kind of just went on my way and just waited for that referral call. So about a week later, I got that, which I was pretty surprised. It was pretty quick being during the pandemic. And it was for a couple months down the road. So it was still quite a bit of wait. And slowly I kept Googling and I kept kind of having inklings of what might be going on now, and stuff started to maybe hit home a little bit. So my anxiety started to raise quite a bit. And my wife urged me to go to the hospital on a November, it was middle of November. So I'd gone to the ER. I had seen the ER physician. I spoke with him. He was a phenomenal young doctor. He thought it might have been diverticulitis or stress or whatnot, just like everybody else. But he essentially made one decision that completely saved my life. He wanted to send me for a CT scan just to confirm it was diverticulitis or inflammation or what have you before he prescribed me meds. So that move by him right there, and not just downplaying, oh, this is a 36-year-old healthy guy, it can't be cancer, which is unfortunately what does happen a lot, didn't happen. So that decision right there that doctor decided to make that day was a complete lifesaver and game changer for me. So unfortunately, that's when kind of everything really got real. So they did find a tumor on my sigmoid colon, and they saw some lymph nodes that were possibly enlarged and calcified around that area. So that was obviously a complete shock. I was by myself getting these results mid-COVID in the hospital, and it was absolutely terrifying. I was angry, mad, pissed, upset, confused, all at the same time, and I really didn't know what to do at that point. Fortunately, I had the nurses I had were amazing. They really supported me and they really helped somewhat calm me down, because let's face it, there was no calming me down completely at that point. And luckily, I won't name the hospital, but it was before I got to the Ottawa hospital. They actually kind of let my wife in to come see me when we talked to the general surgeon who was going to be performing an emergency biopsy that day. So that again was just kind of another reason and another kind of act of kindness from a medical person that was taking care of me, that just kind of kickstarted a whole bunch of just amazingness from the medical staff I've come across. So that biopsy obviously confirmed that there was a tumor there that looked like cancer. The surgeon was quite sure, but we had to wait for pathology. So once that came back, it was about a week later. And of course, as anybody that's been through this can imagine, that was the most grueling week of my life. My wife and I just, you can only imagine waiting on those results. And that Friday, so this was on a Monday, and then that Friday, we got the call with the results, and it was confirmed adenocarcinoma in the colon, and there were definitely confirmed lymph nodes that were reactive. They didn't know at what points what it was exactly, but they knew there were some that were enlarged. So my file immediately got sent to the Ottawa Hospital, and I met an amazing, amazing staff there. My oncologist, Dr. Yonker, all the medical oncologists there, and we went over some options. And one of the first things that he said is, there are a couple trials that I'm doing, and how do you feel about that? So in my mind, I was pretty terrified at that point, because I thought that clinical trials were your last ditch effort and there was nothing else out there to help you. So that shook me pretty good. However, my doctor, as well as the clinical trial coordinators, they sat with me probably for about half an hour, 45 minutes, explaining everything, the options, whether it was just standard of care, watch and wait, or going into a randomized trial. So they basically comforted me. They took all the time in the world, and they really actually made me want to do it, right? So I still had a decision to make with my wife, whether we're going to do it or not. But at that point, I definitely felt supported, and I was kind of ready to go for it and put my trust in that team, because they did really go right from day one. They went above and beyond and really made sure I understand exactly what that trial was for, how it could benefit me, how it could benefit the cancer land in general down the road. And, after a couple days of thinking, I almost didn't do it. And I decided to do it. And deciding to do that was probably one of the best decisions that I have made throughout my cancer journey. And I can't wait to come back for my second part of this to tell you all about that.